Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something huge, maybe the ultimate mental challenge. What happens the moment you finish your formal practice? You stand up, get off the cushion, and walk back into, well, life.
Right. It's that classic feeling, isn't it? You cultivate this calm, this clarity, and then the phone rings or you hit traffic, and it feels like it all just vanishes.
Exactly. It all feels like deep practice is this separate thing locked away in that quiet session. But the source material we're diving into today suggests something pretty radical, that all of life can become the practice itself.
It really does. And it directly addresses the question from our listener, the learner, which I think sums it up for so many of us. I know how to balance my mind during meditation, but how do I practice in the post-meditative state?
That transition feels like such a cliff edge sometimes. You go from this relatively controlled inner space to the sheer chaos of the external world, which is constantly demanding attention and triggering reactions.
It can feel like two completely different universes. But actually, seeing them as separate is the core issue, according to these texts we're exploring, daily mindfulness and the unification of states.
Okay, so what's the bridge? How do we connect these two universes?
Well, the texts argue the mental approach, the core factor you need, is exactly the same whether you're sitting still or navigating a busy street. It comes down to systematically developing two key things in daily life. Mindfulness, or what the source calls awa remembrance and vigilance.
Okay, let's pause on that term OO1 incident. Why remembrance specifically? We usually just talk about mindfulness.
It's a subtle but really important distinction. Mindfulness often implies just being present, which is crucial. But our remembrance adds this layer of actively recalling the insight, the view, the nature of mind you glimpsed or stabilized on the cushion.
So it's not just being aware, but remembering what to be aware of or how to be aware.
Exactly. It's the engine that keeps that insight running when distractions inevitably pop up. And getting good at this, according to the masters quoted here, isn't just helpful, it's basically the definition of success in meditation.
Okay, I think we all need a bit of that motivation. Is this level of integration actually seen as possible? Or is it just some far-off ideal?
Oh, absolutely possible. Listen to this powerful directive from Jidra Kungpa. If you develop the skill of applying mindfulness, then you succeeded in meditation. Oh, my son, pay special attention to the practice of mindfulness. It's framed as the essential skill.
Right. The whole path seems to hinge on taking it off the cushion.
That's the idea, fully weaving it into the fabric of your life.
Okay, let's really unpack that weaving process.
Yeah.
If the mental factor, this remembrance, is the same, how does the application differ when the world is just, constantly throwing sensory stuff at us? I mean, the annoying sound, the stressful email, the physical discomfort.
Well, while the core awareness is the same, the context is obviously way more complex and unpredictable day to day. Suddenly you have strong emotions, intense sensations hitting you from all sides, visual, auditory, tactile, and then all the mental chatter about them.
So the challenge is maintaining presence through all that sensory input.
Yes, through all 6 sensory doorways without getting tangled up. The aim is to sustain that presence without adding layers of judgment, like acceptance or rejection, and crucially, without buying into the idea that what you're perceiving exists independently, solidly, out there.
So it's not about trying to build a wall against the world or becoming numb. It's more about shifting the quality of our engagement with everything that comes our way.
Precisely. You need a specific kind of attitude, and the text offers a wonderful analogy for this, the child analogy.
Yeah, okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work?
Imagine a child looking at elaborate, colorful paintings on a temple wall. The images are vivid, bright, totally clear. The child perceives them fully. But, and this is the key, those images don't trigger deep attachment or clinging or rejection in the child's mind. They just see them.
So it's that sense of mental openness, seeing clearly,
Mm-hmm.
but without immediately layering on all the emotional baggage, the belief, the story.
That's exactly the quality we need when we experience sensory input. Just clear seeing, hearing, feeling, without the instant hook of belief.
This is so important because as the texts like Introduction to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life point out, the real problem isn't the seeing or hearing itself.
No.
It's our ingrained habit of believing in the solid reality of phenomena. That belief, the text says, is the root cause of suffering.
Spot on. It's not the traffic jam itself, but the belief that this traffic jam is a solid, malevolent entity ruining my day. It's the belief that makes us suffer, not the raw perception.
Okay, so the child analogy gives us the attitude, open, non-clinging perception. But how do we manage the sheer volume of perceptions hitting us all day? It can feel overwhelming.
Right, and that's where the next key analogy comes in, which is more about the practical management, the shepherd analogy.
Okay, this sounds like it gets right into the nitty-gritty of daily application. How does a shepherd help us here?
Think about a good shepherd. They are present, they are watchful, but they aren't hyper-controlling every single sheep.
Right, they don't micromanage where each sheep eats grass.
Exactly. They don't constantly crack the whip. They let the flock graze freely, naturally, but within a certain boundary, the boundary of their awareness and care.
That's a lovely image for mental freedom within awareness. How do we apply that?
We apply it directly to our senses. We let the six senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, even thinking, function freely. We don't try to suppress them. But crucially, we don't cling to the mental objects that arise from them.
So we're watching the perceptions arise and pass within that boundary of awareness.
Yes, watching the non-separateness of phenomena and emptiness. Or asusho, as the source puts it.
Right, that term osh means emptiness, essentially. But non-separateness of phenomena and emptiness, it still sounds quite abstract. How does that help when I'm dealing with something very concrete, like a difficult conversation?
It means you allow the difficult words, the tone of voice, the phenomena to arise fully. You perceive them, but simultaneously you recognize that the solid problem you're projecting onto the situation, the difficult person, the unresolvable conflict, lacks that independent, substantial reality you're assigning to it. It's empty of that inherent existence.
Yeah, okay. So the phenomena appear, the words are heard, but the belief in their solid, independent power to harm is seen through.
That's the essence. The shepherds, our awareness, keeps the boundary. Everything happens within it, but nothing is mistaken for ultimate, solid truth that we then have to fight or cling to.
That non-clinging observation feels incredibly powerful. But to maintain it, especially under pressure, feels like it needs more than just discipline. It requires a really deep insight, doesn't it? A genuine understanding of this illusory nature of things.
Absolutely. Otherwise, like you said, you're just gritting your teeth, intellectually suppressing reactions, and that's exhausting and won't last. You need to internalize the view.
So how do we get there? Does the text guide us on understanding illusion correctly?
Yes, and importantly, it first warns against common misunderstandings. There are 3 traps. First, thinking unreality means nothing matters, leading to nihilism and ignoring cause and effect. That's a big error.
Right, ignoring karma.
Second, just vaguely contemplating uncertainty isn't precise enough. And third, simply labeling everything as illusory in your head is just intellectual. It doesn't change your core belief structure.
Okay, so if those are the wrong ways, what's the right way? What's the metaphor that captures the true insight?
The definitive one is the magician analogy.
Ah, the magician. Let's hear it.
Okay, so a skilled magician conjures up illusions on stage. Maybe a horse, maybe an elephant. The audience gasps. They're completely captivated, believing the illusion is real.
They buy into it completely.
Right. But what about the magician? They also see the horse or the elephant. They perceive the form, the color, everything the audience sees.
Right.
But the magician knows it's an illusion. They don't believe for a second that a solid, independent horse just materialized out of thin air.
Okay, I see the distinction. So, translating that.
Yogins, advanced practitioners, perceive the very same world as ordinary people. Same sights, sounds, thoughts, feelings. The difference isn't in the perception, it's that the yogin no longer believes that these appearances possess inherent, independent, substantial existence.
Wow, so it's perception plus belief versus perception without belief. That changes everything.
That is the fundamental shift, from suffering rooted in belief to liberation rooted in seeing through that belief.
Okay, but here's the practical hurdle that always comes up for me with this idea. If I really start to see things as illusory, my job, my relationships, my bank balance, doesn't that risk making me careless? You know, if it's all just a magic show, why bother acting responsibly?
This is probably the most critical point, and the texts are incredibly clear and adamant about it. Understanding illusion correctly absolutely must not lead to neglecting cause and effect, neglecting karma. That's the line between profound insight and dangerous nihilism.
But how can those two coexist? Seeing things as empty and taking action seriously. It feels paradoxical.
It is paradoxical, but they're presented as inseparable, like 2 sides of a coin. The source quotes stages of the Bodhisattva's path, and it's just stunning. When we clearly realize the primordial emptiness of all phenomena, we naturally adhere to the principle of karma, the law of cause and effect. How amazing, how wonderful.
How amazing, how wonderful. That's counterintuitive but deeply motivating. So the deeper the insight into emptiness, the more responsible you become?
Exactly, because you see how actions create results within the relative world, even while understanding that world lacks ultimate solidity. Think of it like playing a complex video game. You know it's a game, not ultimately real, but to succeed within the game, you have to follow its rules, meticulously cause and effect.
Okay, that reframes it powerfully. Play the game skillfully, follow the rules, but don't mistake the game for ultimate reality.
That's the essence of it.
All right, so picture this. I'm going about my day, trying to be the mindful shepherd, perceiving like the magician without the belief, and then, bam, distraction hits. A really sticky thought, maybe intense anger or worry. What happens then?
Okay, for the practitioner who is still developing stability, distraction is definitely going to happen. The instruction is immediate. Recognize it the instant it arises and simply return to awareness.
Just recognize and return.
Yes, and the analogy used is beautiful. It's like snow falling on a warm stone or hitting water.
It melts instantly on contact.
Exactly. The moment you recognize the distraction as distraction, it loses its power to solidify into a whole narrative you get lost in. You don't fight it, you don't judge it, you just see it, and that seeing is the return.
Like that famous image of the bird lost at sea, always returning to the ship's mast. You don't beat yourself up for flying off course. You just instantly correct.
Precisely that. Just come back. Now. What about the really experienced practitioner? Does distraction still happen, or does something else occur?
That's the fascinating question. Do they just get incredibly fast at melting the snow? Or does the snow itself change?
Well, for the highly experienced, the game changes. Mental activity, even strong thoughts or emotions, ceases to be a hindrance. It actually becomes fuel for the practice.
Fuel? How does that work? That sounds amazing.
The text gives the forest fire analogy. Think about a small fire. A gust of wind might blow it out.
Right.
But when a forest fire is huge, raging, what does the wind do then?
Oh, wow. It spreads it, makes it bigger.
Exactly. So for the experienced practitioner, the energy of mental excitation, the wind of thoughts, positive or negative, no longer extinguishes their awareness. Instead, it intensifies the fire of their realization. The arising thought automatically manifests as the dynamic potential of the mind's own nature.
So they don't even need to return to awareness because, in a sense, they never left. The distraction itself is seen as part of the display of awareness.
That's the idea. The turmoil is recognized instantly, not as a separate problem to be dealt with, but as the very energy of mind itself. It's immediately seen in its empty, luminous nature.
So paradoxically, the more intense or complex the thoughts, the faster the progress, because they provide more energy to be recognized and liberated on the spot.
Yes, because they dissolve immediately without needing any conscious act of acceptance or rejection. This is what the text calls non-distraction from mental activity. You're not distracted by the activity because you see its true nature instantly.
Is there another way to picture that instant recognition?
There's the old friends analogy. Imagine you unexpectedly bump into a very close friend you haven't seen in decades. You recognize them instantly, right? There's no hesitation, no figuring it out.
Yeah, immediate recognition.
It's like that with thoughts for the advanced practitioner. A complex, perhaps emotionally charged thought arises, and boom, instant recognition of its fundamental nature, its empty essence. No deliberation needed.
And the result of reaching this level sounds, frankly, unbelievable.
Yeah.
The source says the practitioner eventually only experiences bliss, clarity, and lack of concepts. Even physical pain, like being pricked by a needle, is felt as bliss.
That's the description of a mind totally free from the distortion of conceptual grasping and belief. It's a radical transformation, where the raw energy of experience is no longer filtered through suffering-inducing concepts.
And this high level of stable, non-distracted awareness must be what leads to the ultimate goal mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Unifying the meditative and post-meditative states, making them one seamless experience.
Okay, so if the shepherd is about managing daily life, and the magician is the insight, what does true unification feel like? Is it just being really, really mindful while I'm doing chores?
Well, being mindful during chores is definitely practice towards unification, but true unification is described as something far more profound and continuous. Gampopa sets a very high bar. He says unification happens when you are involved in everyday activity. Maintaining presence of clarity without distractions during any kind of activity.
Any kind of activity
Mm.
without distraction, that's incredibly demanding. So if I space out for even a moment while waiting in line, technically I haven't unified the states. They're still separate experiences for me.
According to that definition, yes. The goal isn't just fleeting moments of clarity during activity, but an unbroken, seamless continuum of clear awareness, no matter what you're doing, no matter how complex or mundane.
And the significance of achieving this is
Yeah.
enormous, right?
Absolutely massive in the context of the path. Jedrakumpa draws a line. Mastering the practices separately, being skilled on the cushion and functional off it, makes you a bodhisattva, which is already incredible.
Right.
But unifying the two practices, dissolving the boundary completely so there's no difference between meditation and life. That's the level of a Buddha or a Mahasiddha.
Wow. Okay. So unification isn't just getting better at mindfulness, it's a fundamental state shift.
Mm.
Given that Mahasiddha level feels pretty distant for most of us, how can we even begin working towards this unification in a practical way?
You start by consciously bringing the magician's insight about illusion into your daily activities as much as possible. This aligns with early stages of practices like Mahamudra, such as the yoga of non-elaboration.
So even if distractions still happen and break the continuity.
Right. Even then, the moment you recognize the distraction, you immediately apply the understanding that it lacks inherent reality. You practice non-clinging actively, repeatedly, even if it's interrupted. That's the training ground.
And the core instruction, the guiding principle for all of us, whether we're just starting or deep into the path.
Gampopa lays it out simply and powerfully. Meditation on reality by maintaining mindfulness without distraction. This is the king of all meditation methods. Guard your mind from transient distractions. Do not strive for anything but unchanging mindfulness. That commitment to return again and again is the path.
What a journey we've taken today, from the cushion right into the complexities of daily life, using these amazing analogies. The child, the shepherd, the magician, even the forest fire. The mission seems clear. Learn to see the world vividly, engage with it fully, but let go of that crippling belief in its solid, independent reality.
That's the heart of it. Remember the shepherd. Let your senses and thoughts roam, but keep the boundary of non-clinging awareness. Adopt the magician's view. See the show, but know it's a show, free from belief in its inherent solidity. And maybe most encouragingly, see every thought, every distraction, not as a failure, but as potential fuel, like wind for the fire.
And to leave everyone with something profound to consider, let's reflect on this final word from Jedrakumpa about the ultimate point. Realizing the nature of the mind means achieving nirvana. To realize the non-separateness of samsara and nirvana means to unite with the path of transformation. True achievement is a state that goes beyond all achievements.
So maybe the question to carry into your day is this. As you move through your experiences, the good, the bad, the mundane, how often are you the believing spectator, totally caught up, convinced by the reality of the show? And how often can you glimpse the perspective of the knowing magician, seeing it all arise and pass with an awareness, illusory yet profoundly meaningful? Just asking that question can start to shift everything.